Let's talk about Supergirl, because since we last did the podcast, she was cast. I mean, that was the big thing.
Yeah.
In fact, it was, I think, right after maybe the morning.
Castings, but yeah, most importantly.
Most importantly was they cast Supergirl herself. A last name that currently I'll massacre, but soon we'll all have to know how to pronounce.
Yeah.
So Melissa Benoist? What do you think?
Benoist.
Benoist?
Benoist. Benoist.
Benoist. Why not? Who initially I thought,
all of it's wrong, probably.
I was like, I'd never seen her in anything because she was in Glee season 4 and 5, and I stopped watching Glee halfway through season 3. But then I realized she is in Whiplash, which I have seen. So she's the love interest.
Yeah, she was the love interest in it. I mean, to be frank, I love Whiplash.
Yeah, it's not a huge role.
She didn't have a really big role. She was fine, though.
Yeah, she was good, but the nature of the role is kind of that he's not very, he's having some issues investing in that relationship.
Yes, he is. And I mean, yeah, I certainly remember when I was watching the film, I was like, wow, this is a really great cast, including even this girl.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, it's very funny because she was on Glee season 4 and 5 because Grant Gustin was from Glee. I did kind of like it because it kind of trapped the people who would be like so quick to say like, oh, from Glee, that's horrible, just for no reason except someone took another acting role.
Yeah, and
because
sing.
because Grant Gustin, who everyone ended up really liking, came from Glee.
You know what this is all about?
DC is going to cast everyone from Glee.
They are seeding their musical crossover episode.
Maybe that'd be amazing. Flash and Supergirl meet, and it's just like this giant song.
And it's just like a big I mean, there would have to be Buffy already did it though, where it was like one of the villains they had to sing, so you couldn't really do that. I guess you could.
Just sing, just for the one episode. Just ignore that they've never done it before.
It's Tony Soprano, the villain, the super villain.
Tony Soprano. I getcha. There was an amazing episode of Batman.
That was really corny.
There was an amazing episode. Amazing. You should watch this if you never have. Batman Brave and the Bold, the animated series, did an episode about a villain called the Music Meister, and Neil Patrick Harris voiced him, and he made you sing, and it was the musical episode, and it's great.
See, there's no reason that they can't do this.
Yeah.
There's no reason that they can't do this live action. They have all these good singers now.
They do. So the DC universe is really growing with singing talent. But yeah, so I don't know enough to say like, yes, great, but I also think, hey, I like what I've seen of her. She's got brown hair, but it'll be okay.
It'll be okay. She'll be
They've
fine.
got the science, they'll work, special effects. They can do amazing things to change people's hair color.
Well, I remember when Jennifer Lawrence was cast as Katniss, and like people were tripping because, and then she was like, "They're gonna dye my hair.
Right.
It's fine."
That will be the salvation, the solution to all this. So they cast her, and then we heard one other piece of casting. This is happening so quick that I could even foresee we'll hear more before this even posts.
Right.
Because this is going to shoot very soon.
Yeah.
But the second one we heard was playing James Olsen.
Thank you very much.
Yes, is Makad Brooks, who's best known for True Blood, I'd say. We already knew from the character description that this would be a very different Jimmy Olsen.
Right.
And I'm not talking about his race, which, again, and this is such a barrel of worms that are open, but I don't think Jimmy Olsen's race is important to Jimmy Olsen.
No.
Like there are comic book characters. I'm not saying there's no comic book characters where the race is important. Jimmy Olsen, it's not important. What I will say is about this character is like they just cast. It's not that they cast a black guy. It's they cast this like very like sort of hunky buff.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like leading man type.
Yeah,
for Jimmy Olsen.
Did you see him on True Blood?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not, and that was the thing that I was struck by too. I was like, okay, I guess this is going to be a whole different.
And the description
James.
when we saw the character descriptions, it even referred to that. Like didn't they called him an alpha male?
Yeah.
And we even said back then,
huh?
Jimmy Olsen, alpha male.
Yeah.
That's different. So that's just very interesting as far as like, okay, and to me, that's the kind of thing that usually will give me more concern than the race thing. I'm like, yeah, Jimmy Olsen could be any race if he's like the plucky cub reporter, trying to make it as a photographer. But if he's like, I'm James and I'm here to kick ass, that's very different. But we'll see. Should we talk about the theory?
Yeah, let's talk about the theory.
It's just one theory, but it's an interesting theory, which is, I want to give proper credit here, is DCTVUniverse.com throughout this theory. But they have this whole theory about what if James Olsen is actually a merger with another character named Val Zod from DC Comics, who's like, again, DC, I'm going into the whole can of worms here of
Open it up.
comic books and multiple realities, and the fact that there's Earth 2 and Val-Zod, who I believe is another Kryptonian, his name certainly implies, was another character entirely who then became Superman. He became the new Superman in that world. And yes, James Olsen is another character in that world too, but the comic books are, I mean, the TV shows are already doing this a lot.
Yeah.
Where they're like merging characters together or taking an idea and spinning it together.
Such a cool theory, because he could basically, Jimmy Olsen, that like, you know, plucky reporter who's kind of a little bit nerdy,
right,
could be his Clark Kent identity.
Right.
That could be his secret identity.
And to extrapolate here, if that were true, I don't think it was supposed to be, I think Clark Kent, Superman, would still be a separate character who we probably won't see but hear about.
Yeah.
But the idea that this guy, and you know, again, here I'm going to completely go down the what if role. Like, what if he's another Kryptonian and she doesn't realize it?
Yeah.
She's working with this guy, and he's got like a hidden agenda, and I don't think he's a bad guy. Maybe he's there to help her, but he's not revealing who he is.
Right, and then that show gets to get away with having a version of Superman without actually having to have Superman on the show.
Right, without having the Clark Kent Superman.
Right, the Clark Kent Superman on the show, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty neat. I mean, I do think, like, again, just having seen this guy before, like, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to don that secret identity.
Dude
this is a big guy.
Yeah, who's like ready to play a superhero, which is again why it's funny that he's playing Jimmy or James Olsen, because it's a very different version.
That's where I think it could get comical. You know, just sort of like, well, I've got my glasses on now, and now I'm not 6 feet tall and massively ripped.
Right,
like,
right.
You know.
But that's again if he's supposed to be like the alpha male thing, you know. So we'll see with that. And then the other thing we heard about is that I think it was TV Line.
Do you think they'll be in love? Okay.
Kryptonian love, musical episode. That's one of the songs.
Our comments are going to be like, never let these two near comic.
Right. Everyone knows that superheroes hate singing. We heard that the villain in the premiere, according to TV Line, I believe, would be a super obscure DC villain called the Lumberjack, who appeared like once in Wonder Woman, which doesn't really mean anything. I mean, people were like, again, it's like you have to look at history here where you're like, oh man, whatever, that's their first villain, but I don't even remember who Arrow's first like villain was. Like, I mean, I'm talking the pilot.
In the pilot episode, didn't he have that big?
Just the first person on the list, or you know?
Yeah, it was like the first person on the list, but then he had that. I believe it was in either the first or second episode. Didn't he have like that big, massive, multiple people fight?
Yeah, probably.
In the hallway?
Probably, yeah.
Am I making that? You guys tell me if I can't. I remember that fight, and I think it was like in the first or second episode. So I don't think it was like singular villain.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think they want to just give her a big guy to fight in the pilot.
Yeah.
The important thing here, just to kind of extrapolate on what we just talked about, is that TV Line did say that he would fight her having already fought her cousin. So kind of solidifying that Superman exists in this world. Where is he? Why is he not showing up to help her? I'm guessing there's got to be a plot point about that, you know, because it would be weird. While, yes, it's not like he would have to show up every week. If he never shows up, there has to be a reason. So it's like, okay.
He's just kind of he's kind of taking a sabbatical in the Fortress of Solitude. He's just thinking about things.
He's just thinking about things, yeah.